Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. It is finally garden planting day. We have had a very wet, actually kind of cool spring so far this year. And so we've been holding off on planting our outdoor garden. You may have seen a couple weeks ago that we got the greenhouse planted, but the outside garden we've been holding off for just a bit for our actual summer plants.
Now we have planted some spring plants in here, and there are some perennials. So today we want to show you what we already have planted out here in our Vajayga raised beds. Also how we are going to be amending all of the open beds, and then we're going to plant this summer garden area.
So let's first start by taking a walk around the garden, looking at what's currently growing, and then we'll show you what's going in the rest of the empty beds. All right, let's start here at the front of the garden. Now, just to recap for those of you who may either be new to our channel or maybe just haven't been watching every video, we upgraded last year. We switched from gardening in the ground, which we've done for about a decade, to raised bed gardening. There were a lot of factors that went into that decision, but the main thing was our ground here is just so rocky and it was so hard to keep things under control that we decided to switch to raised beds. These raised beds are from a company called Vajayga. We did a ton of research last year about what raised beds we wanted to put in, and after looking at all of the options, Vajayga was the company that we decided to go with because it looks like these beds are going to last us at least 20 years. So we filled up all of these raised beds last year and started to plant. These beds are 8 feet long by 2 feet wide and about 17 inches deep, and they have been working out really, really well. So here at the front of the garden, you can see that we already have one bed full of onions. We planted these a couple weeks ago, around the same time that we planted the greenhouse. And they were just tiny little starts when we put them in, and they are already doing really, really well. I'd say they've doubled in size in the last couple weeks. Here in the bed, in the second row here, you can see we have some gorgeous spring lettuce. We put this in probably in March, and it's doing really well. And in a bunch of the beds here, we have cabbage growing as well. You'll see that there's a cage over the top of some of these beds. These are our spring beds, and actually later today or maybe tomorrow we'll be putting bug netting on these as well. This is an upgrade you can buy from Vajayga. It comes with the nets that go over, and it works really well here in our area to keep the cabbage moths off of all of our cabbage plants. Here behind me is a bed that we have a lot of volunteers coming up in. This is where we grew dill last year. Some of it went to seed, and you can see we have a lot of dill coming up again this year. So what we're going to do for now is we're going to just let this grow. If it started to come up, it's obviously the right time for it to be growing. We're going to let this grow, and then after we harvest all of this dill this year, then we'll amend this bed later in the summer. The rest of the 3 beds here are empty. These 2 over here are going to be for green beans. We'll be doing the jade green beans, the same as what we're doing in the greenhouse. The greenhouse, we're going to be using those for fresh eating. And out here, these will be for what Sarah will need for canning for this year. And then in this final bed back here, today we're going to be planting some okra. A couple of years ago, I found a dwarf variety of okra that does really well in raised beds. I've been saving seed from it every year, and so that's what we're going to be planting today. It's called Dwarf Green Long Pod Okra, and it has done really well for us in the raised beds.
The next 3 beds that we have here, all 3 of the beds are more cabbage. We have 2 beds of green cabbage and 1 bed of the purple cabbage. They will be covered in just a couple of, well, today or tomorrow with that netting like Kevin had told you. Now behind us here, these 2 rows here, they have the trellises here that we use cattle panels to create these trellises. This year, it's going to be an exciting year on the trellises. We have already planted Juliet grape tomatoes on each side of these 2 beds here. So we will allow them to grow nice and tall, and we will attach them here so that it will have the appearance that they're climbing. Now, tomatoes aren't vining, so they don't really climb, but we'll help them climb. And so both sides will hopefully meet together and will just create a bunch of wonderful Juliet tomatoes. Now we have 2 other trellises that we are going to be filling this year. This trellis here, we're going to be doing what's called asparagus beans. They're a yard-long bean that can grow like as long as 3 feet. Both sides are going to have those beans. They'll come up together, hopefully, and grow some amazing long green beans. Now, we love pan-fried green beans, and so we think that the yard-long beans will be perfect for pan-fried green beans. Way over here at the end, we're going to do something that might surprise you guys. We're going to be growing small watermelons on both sides. Now, the surprise is that we eat low carb in our lifestyle, kind of a keto, low carb, and watermelons, they are not approved on that diet. But you guys, it's been so long since we have grown melons of any type, and so this year we're going to grow some small ones and just allow ourselves to enjoy the fresh watermelons. It will be so fun to see them growing along here. Now, watermelons are a little bit on the heavy side. Even though we're going to be growing the small personal-sized ones, we will have to support them so that they don't fall off the vine prematurely. So I guess you'll just have to see how we end up doing that this summer. But these 3 trellises are going to be super fun. We can see them from the house and enjoy the beauty of them, and I'm really excited to get them planted.
The next 2 beds here are filled with asparagus. We planted this asparagus last year, and asparagus is a very slow growing plant, so you need to give it several years to develop kind of underground before you really start harvesting any. This year we were able to harvest enough for just 1 meal, but we didn't want to harvest more than that because we want all of this to grow well underground so that next year, starting next year and then from there on forward, we can really start harvesting a lot of the asparagus. So these plants you can see are quite tall. A lot of them have fallen over from some of the big winds that we've had this spring, but they are growing really, really well, and we're confident that they're growing nice big root balls underground as well. The final bed down here, which is empty, we are going to amend in a little bit. We'll fill this back up to the top, and then we are going to be planting carrots here today. So this entire bed will be filled with a carrot mix. That's something we haven't grown in quite a while, but I think they're going to do really well in this nice loose soil of the raised beds.
The last 3 raised beds in the garden are filled, and they are filled with strawberries. And you guys, they are doing so well, and they're starting to produce berries, and we've actually harvested maybe a half dozen of them or so. But there's just berries everywhere in here. We are so excited. This is really the first year we've ever been able to harvest strawberries. Last year was the first year of us planting them. So we are very excited. All 3 beds are doing really well. They're all filled with these berries that are starting to ripen, some of them still growing. And so we're really happy with this and excited to eat a lot of strawberries this year. I hope that we get enough that I can put a bunch in the freezer, maybe even do a little bit of canning with them.
So before we can actually start planting, we do need to amend the beds that we're going to start planting our seeds in. We're going to start here with one of the beds that we're going to be planting beans in. We're going to take the watering system out for right now. And you can see that this bed has, lost quite a bit of volume over the last year because when we filled these with just compost. And as it continued to break down, you can see that it settled quite a bit. This will be something we need to do probably every year or every other year when you're growing in raised beds. Today, we're going to be amending this with a mixture of potting soil and composted manure. And I also have a new tool that actually one of our subscribers sent us. I want to show you guys. I've already used it on a few of the other beds, and it is going to save us a ton of work. So this is the tool that somebody sent us. This is a handheld cultivator, battery operated. made by Ryobi. And it is really a pretty cool tool for these raised beds. Basically, it's going to fluff up all of our soil, and then we can add all of our amendments and go back over it again. Watch how easily this thing works. And it really loosens up the top, like, 4 or 5 inches of the soil, so that you can really get in there, and especially when you're planting seeds, it's going to be really nice. That's all there is to it. Let's go grab a bag of potting soil and a bag of manure. We'll put that on top, and then we'll work that in. Now, there's nothing special really about the potting soil or anything that we've got. This is just stuff we picked up last fall at Menards when it was on clearance. Any decent quality potting soil is going to be pretty close to the same. So we're going to start by putting an entire bag of the potting soil, and then we'll put the manure on top of that.
Spread this out before we mix it all together.
Now that we have that all spread over the top, we'll go back over it with the cultivator again. That'll mix everything together, and then we'll be ready to plant this bed. And look at that, just like that, that bed is ready for planting. We're going to do these other 2 beds, and then we will plant these first 3 beds with our green beans and our okra.
These 2 beds are ready for us to plant. We're going to be planting bush beans here. The variety is jade bush beans, and we are going to plant 2 rows in here. We're going to plant each seed about 6 inches apart.
And then this last bed that we amended here is going to be for our okra. I'm only going to be planting 3 okra plants in this bed because they do get quite large. Even though they're the dwarf, they don't get very tall, but they do still get quite big as far as the distance around. So I'm going to plant 2 seeds in each hole, just because that way we'll guarantee we get good germination. We can always thin them out later on just to 1 plant then. And okra, every year, I think they're not doing very well. And then as soon as it starts to get really, really hot, they just explode. Now, we only plant 1 bed because I'm the only one who likes them in our family. And 3 plants is plenty for just me to eat. We've got the rest of our beds amended. It's time to start planting. We're going to plant this first arch here first. We're going to be planting this again with what are called asparagus beans. These we just picked up at Walmart. They're by Ferry Morris. I think they're just going to be a fun experiment. We're going to use these basically just for fresh eating or for, like Sarah said, pan fried or grilled. I think they'll be fun for that.
Now these seeds we are going to be planting 6 inches apart, and we counted, and that ends up being 7 beans or 7 plants per side. So we'll have 14 total. It'll be really fun. The asparagus bean, yard-long beans are planted. We're going to move on to this bed here where we're going to plant the entire thing of carrots. Now we have a rainbow mix of carrot seed that we're going to be planting, and I think that we are going to end up using this entire seed packet. There's not a whole lot of seed in this packet, so I'm going to be really careful to just spread them out nice and thin, and so that maybe we don't have to actually thin them at all. Now, one of the tricks to growing carrots and getting the seed to germinate is to, number one, keep them nice and moist, and number two, to cover them so that they don't get sunlight until they've germinated. So we have one of our raised bed covers that we'll be using to cover it. And nothing that we're doing today needs to be watered in because the next 4 days we're going to get rain. So we lucked out, even though we are going to set up our irrigation watering system. So I'm just going to put this entire envelope of seed in my hand and then just gently sprinkle them out over the entire bed. I'm just going to pat the soil down to make sure that the seeds make really good contact with the soil. I'm not pressing down too hard, but just a little bit.
Now to cover the beds, we're just going to be using a piece of the weed fabric, the same stuff we have down on the ground. We're just going to cover this. You really just want to block out most of the sun from the seeds. And then we just use binder clips to hold the cover in place. And because we're using the weed fabric, which is woven, when it rains, the rain will get down in there to water the seeds. All right, let's move on to the final arch. This final arch is going to be where we're going to be planting our watermelons. Now again, this is a complete experiment. We think it's going to work, but we've never really done this before. And to be honest, I haven't seen anybody else do it on an arch like this before either, so we'll see what's going to happen. The type that we're going to be planting are Sugar Baby. They don't get super big, but it does say that they'll get up to about 8 pounds. So it is still a decent sized watermelon. We'll see what happens. We're not going to plant very many of them. In fact, we're only going to plant 2 on each side of the arch because watermelons do get pretty big. So we'll put 1 kind of at each end of the panel. And that's all there is to it. Hopefully this will do well. I think it's going to be a cool experiment, and I'm really excited to grow some homegrown watermelons again because it's been several years.
Now in these 3 hoops here, so these 6 beds, most of what we're planting to grow is in the middle of the raised bed. So it's going to give some extra planting space for something else, and I have chosen to plant just a few low growing flowers. Now we had some marigolds that volunteer came up and we moved them on the ends of both of these beds here. So we'll have marigolds growing here. But on the other two arches, the other two trellises, I still have some bare space here. And so I'm going to be planting some of the shorter varieties of zinnias. I have the Lilliput mixed colors and I have the mini zinni mixture, both from Fairy Morse that I just picked up at Walmart. I love the way it looks to have some flowers growing at the ends of these. And because these are going to stay small, they're not going to like overpower what we have growing in these beds. I'll tell you, last year I got a little bit overzealous and I planted way too many flowers and they competed with what was actually growing food in these gardens. So this year I'm restraining myself a little bit and just planting a little bit. Now, I'm just going to plant some seed. I'm just basically going to sprinkle some on the ends, rough them up a little bit, pat them down. And like I said, we're going to have a lot of rain coming up in the next few days, so they should come up on their own nicely.
Well, just like that, the entire garden is planted for summer. Now we just need to be patient and wait for some of these seeds to come up and for everything else to start producing.
I think it's going to be a pretty great growing year and growing season. Not only do we have everything that we had already planted and then planted today, and we have an entire greenhouse that we've already planted full of all of our tomatoes, peppers, more green beans, zucchini, cucumbers.
Right.
Anything else?
I think that's it for what's
Yeah.
in the greenhouse. So if you didn't see the video where we planted the greenhouse and went over all the varieties that were growing in there, go back and check out that video as well. We always like to grow certain things in the greenhouse and certain things here outside. Now, one question that we get a lot when we do gardening videos is, why did we leave so much space in between the beds? Why didn't we, put them quite a bit closer together so we could fit even more beds in here? The truth is, we like to have the space when we're working in here, and we are not short on space here on the homestead. We have a lot of room, and because we have a lot of room, we have the option to leave more spacing between things, and that's the way we like it, so that's the way we did it. If you are in a smaller area and need to put things closer together, go ahead and do that.
Another reason why we like the extra space is because when the plants grow up and get big, they actually kind of encroach on each other. Say for instance, the okra. The okra not only get tall, they get very wide.
Right.
So if everything were closer together, there wouldn't be a lot of room to pass through the rows and work around the raised bed. So that's another reason why we just like to have quite a bit of space in between all of our planting areas.
Right. But again, you need to do what works best for your homestead. This is what we like here. You guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed spending some time with us in the garden. It is really exciting to finally have some nice spring weather. A day with the sun shining and the wind isn't even blowing that much today. It's just been a real enjoyable day out here in the garden.
We're also really excited to show you updates in both of our gardening areas, just to show you hopefully how well they're all growing, and Lord willing, we'll have huge harvests.
Right. So don't forget, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please hit the subscribe button before you leave. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And remember, as always, the best way you can help us is just by sharing our videos with other people that you think may like them as well. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care, and God bless.
God bless.